All right, welcome back to Beast Strong Powerhouse and Beast Strong Academy. I'm gonna walk you through a Smith machine squat, just a variation of a squat that's a little bit more controlled than a free weight barbell squat. We have it, a Smith machine is in a track, and so most of the time, these ones are just straight up and down. Sometimes they have a slight angle to them, so they'll squat forward or back a little bit. And then there's a couple of Smith machines that actually have a movement where it goes back and forth on slides as well. But in general, most of our Smith machines go straight up and down, so they keep our control. It allows us to be able to brace a little bit tighter in the hole, not use as many ancillary muscles as we would in a free weight squat. But the squat itself is going to be very similar and set up the same way. So want to make sure we set up the squat just the same way we do every time. I like to pull straight down, stretch the lats out, tuck the chin, and walk straight underneath. This sets your scapula up for success. So it sets your upper body up to where it's nice and tight, right in the proper form. I see a lot of guys that'll tell me that, oh man, I got shoulder issues or I'm pinching. And if you just dip underneath like this, you might be tight from a bench day, a back day, a different day of the week, and just walking underneath it like this, you're all bound up tight. So the best thing I've done is stretch out, stretch the lats, and drop down. So from my arm all the way through my hip, I have a nice straight line. I've tucked the chin, I've walked underneath, and now I've got them braced on my shoulders where I want. Unrack the bar. Now that we're underneath the bar, we want to set our feet. So in general, we're gonna have our toes slightly turned out, right? Slight external rotation, about shoulder width apart to start. And we're gonna make sure that our chest is up, not our chin, but just our chest. Our chin is tucked neutral. And then we're gonna make sure that we hinge first at the hips. So we don't wanna go knee hinge first, we wanna hip hinge first. So make sure our glutes are tight. So you can kind of do that little, see I'm doing a little external rotation here. I'm tracking my knees over my toes, and then I'm sitting down like I'm sitting back onto the toilet, back into a chair. Squat down, so see on my hips. And then as soon as I started hinging with my hips, then you see the knee bend. And then we'll go all the way down, parallel at least. You can go even past, that's good. Keeping that back nice and straight, and then drive straight up through. So you can adjust your feet position for comfort. If you're feeling it too much in the lower back, if you're feeling too much knee load, you know, if your knees are really an issue and they're really sore, I would suggest taking a little farther step out front. You're leaning back into the bar a bit more, but then it tends to be a little bit more glute dominant through the range of movement compared to when your feet are back a little bit more. You're gonna tend to be a little bit more quad dominant. So the hips still hinge back first to initiate the squat. And then as we go through the movement, the knees bend, and you can see now, my knees are like straight over the toes, tracking this way. They're not pushed way out in front, but they're about parallel with the toe. That's gonna be a pretty optimal spot to be when you're squatting. Once you're finished, rock forward, come back out of the movement. That's essentially the basics of a Smith machine squat. Now, like I said, play around with the foot position. Start initially just slightly in front. If you really want quad dominant, your knees are in good shape, bring them back underneath you a bit more. Always track knees over toes and make sure to initiate the squat with hips first. So not knees first, but hips back. And I'm not saying tilt your hips back. You still want your hips underneath you. I'm just saying lean back, initiate the squat, and then drive through. All right, that's the basics of a Smith machine squat. We'll see you on the next module, and strength starts here.